What's going on, everybody? I see the chat filling up a little bit. I don't want to talk about it, Kane. Zach, we need to talk about it. We need to have a conversation about this football team today. What is this? I haven't really come onto the channel in a while to talk just real NFL football in a while, and I wanted to do that today. After the way the Vikings game went on Sunday, I've had the very strong urge to come onto the channel and just talk about the team and to kind of just vent a little bit about the experience of watching the team in 2020. Robert Wagner, thank you for the super chat. Fire Zimmer. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, and I have some opinions on that, and I'll be talking about it when the chat fills up a little bit. I'm so excited that Pitt is 5-0. Solar Edge, take your 5-0 energy somewhere else. No, I'm glad that some of you are enjoying your teams. I mean, I'm at that point where I'm watching other games and I'm like, wow, I'm really jealous of the fans that get to watch these teams. And I'm not talking about like Kansas City all the time. Like, obviously they're on top of the world right now. I'm jealous of like Cardinals fans who have watched that team jump out to a 4-2 start. And sure, they lost 2 games against teams that I would say the Cardinals are legitimately better than. The Cardinals could be 6-0 right now, but they're a fun team. Hey, what's going on, Kawhi? How you doing? Glad to see you here. Good thing they extended Kirk Cousins. Yeah, Gary, that's quite the move. Executive decision of the year. You shouldn't have let Anthony Hampton walk. Yeah, it's debatable, Cody. I think that Price is doing a decent job, though. 1-4 Charger energy. I'm sorry, DJ Self. Like, a couple years ago, we both had a chance to enjoy our teams doing well. And now we're right back to this. Only you guys are, rolling the dice with Herbert. And we backed up a Brinks truck into Kirk Cousins' driveway. Do I think the Giants can win the NFC East? I think any team can win it. I still think it's the Cowboys' division to lose. As bad as they were last night, it's still their division to lose because they're just not as pathetic as the other teams. Daniel Jones, I think, went 4 games in a row without a touchdown pass or a touchdown run. Washington's in the very early stages of their rebuild, but they can make some plays defensively. And Philly is just depleted on offense. They have an XFL offense, legitimately. The Cowboys have players, but without Dak and with the way their defense is playing, they're also a disaster. When we needed Steven Smiley the most, he vanished. I miss Steven Smiley. That 4-game stretch, the best 4-game stretch of a running back on my channel ever. It's unbelievable. Somebody winning the East at 6-10. A couple weeks ago, my thought was first to 8 wins wins the East. Now I think it's first to 7 wins. Like, the bar is going down. Philadelphia may win the NFC East by going 6-9-1. That tie may prove to be valuable. So I think we'll just jump right into it today. The main thing I wanted to talk about was the Vikings this year and how disappointing the season has been to this point. And I want to also just talk about expectations in general. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. They need to get rid of Cousins. That's tough. And why don't we start the conversation there? Yes, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback, and he hasn't been very good this season. He has played the worst out of the 3 years that he's been in Minnesota, and it's tough to explain why, because it's not like the offensive line is worse than they've been. They've been just as bad. And the playmaking situation, it took a couple of weeks for Jefferson to get established, but he has 10 interceptions. Only Carson Wentz, I'm pretty sure, has more. Carson Wentz has been really bad this year. He's a risk taker. He's a gunslinger. That's always going to be part of what Wentz does, I feel. Oh, Cousins has more picks than Wentz now? And Wentz has thrown an additional 60 passes. Carson Wentz has thrown 60 more passes than Kirk Cousins, and Cousins still leads the league in INTs with 10. Cousins, do I have to tell anybody that he's been bad this season? Longtime viewer and Lions fan chiming in. Your team has won a division title and a playoff game in your lifetime. I don't want to hear it. Yep, I want to get to the whole spectrum of everything here, Christopher. Thank you for the super chat. There are teams that have it worse, have had it worse. The Vikings brand of mediocrity is simply unique because it's undeniable. You go Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL. They are the most successful team of all time when you only account for teams that have never won a championship in their sport. There's no denying it. They've had the seasons, the Hall of Famers, everything except for a title. So there are some teams that have low expectations and suck. The Vikings never have an expectation of being worse than mediocre. No one ever goes into a season saying the Vikings should go 4-12. That's only happened once in the last 10 years. They went 3-13 back in 2013. So the Vikings are usually not a top 5 drafting team. And then every once in a while, the Vikings will become the team that has high expectations. And that's where they have been really bad. They do not play well with expectations. And that's been the trend recently with Mike Zimmer because they have not made the playoffs in consecutive years. They have traded off every year. They could have made it a 2-game streak. 2018, first year with Kirk Cousins, week 17 against the Bears. The Bears played their backups plus Mitchell Trubisky for most of the game, and the Vikings couldn't win. All they had to do was win that game against a team that did not care, and they couldn't do it. They win that game, they go to the playoffs. Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Kane, thoughts on Justin Jefferson? Also, how about the Rooks from the Gophers tearing it up in Tampa? Jefferson has been so much better than I thought. Like, you cannot have a reasonable expectation of saying, okay, we replace Stephon Diggs with a first-round receiver. He'll just replace him. I thought that back in 2003. Oh, they got rid of Randy Moss? Troy Williamson's going to step in. No big deal. Massive deal. One of the worst draft picks I've ever seen from the Vikings. But Jefferson has come in, and he's replaced Diggs, and now they're not missing a beat, which is ridiculous. And you'd think if that were the case, this team would be doing so much better than they are. Like, part of Vikings' regression this year was weighed in with Stephon Diggs leaving. Diggs leaving has now had zero impact outside of the first 2 games of the year, where the rest of the team played like garbage anyway. And yes, I feel like around the league, I'm just looking at players with Minnesota or Viking connections just having a good time. Tyler Johnson scored his first touchdown against the Packers. Antoine Winfield's been fantastic. The Buccaneers defense is good, which is weird. Because last year, I know every week in fantasy, it was, okay, who's lining up across from Jamel Dean? Who's lined up against Carlton Davis? Because they weren't very good as rookies. And now they're both playing really well. And Jamel Dean has become one of 3 players in Aaron Rodgers' entire career to intercept him for a touchdown. Rodgers has 3 career pick sixes. He never throws them, which is why I can't believe he did on Sunday. You got Xavier Roads. The roads are closed again. There's plenty of roads construction in Indianapolis now. Rhodes is playing well. Griffin hasn't been that great for Dallas, but I saw how excited he was when they pulled off that comeback against the Falcons, so that's still etched into my memory. I've just seen so many players leave and do well now. Or, go from the Gophers to another team and play well. Diggs has been good for most of the year in Buffalo as well. Kawhi, thank for channel membership, please. There should be a thing below, like, to become a member. I'll see if I can get a link. I think the part that gets me, though, is just like how Jefferson has stepped in, been so good. Thielen is playing well. And it just hasn't made much of a difference. And they've gotten great play from Dalvin Cook, who's played most of the games this season. I'm having trouble finding this link. One moment, please. Oh, there it is. If you want to become a member, it is certainly just an optional thing. If you want to, it's just a way to support the channel. It's like Twitch subscriptions. It's $5 a month. Helps support me. This is what I do full time. It's much appreciated if you want to do that. It does get you access to some perks. There are some emotes. There's a channel member live stream every month. And actually, October's channel member live stream is going to be this Saturday. Usually for about 90 minutes or so, I stream for the channel members. I give you a behind the scenes look at what I'm doing on the channel and just hang out. It's a lot smaller. So if you want like questions answered and you want to talk to me, you have a better chance of getting things answered there. Whereas here we have over 500 people in the chat. So it's completely optional. Don't have to do it. But if you do, I do appreciate it. If you could make one change to make the Vikings better. Sorry, I'm losing my spot here in Super Chats. You guys have been great so far. Let me find my other Super Chat menu. Oh yeah, Stefanski left, and the Browns are winning games. Like, everybody that leaves Minnesota right now is having a good time. I left Minnesota, and I'm having a good time in Texas. That's about the only nice thing about the Vikings season this year. 1, Justin Jefferson. 2, I get to wear shorts at least while I'm watching the game. Okay. Danny asks in the super chat, if you could make one change to make the Vikings better, what change would that be? Loving the content recently as always. If I could only make one change, it'd probably be to swap out Cousins, but because that's very unrealistic, I would say let's get an average guard. I'm not even asking for Brandon Scherf. I'm not asking for Zach Martin. I'm not asking for Quentin Nelson. I'm asking for who's the most average guard in the league? Give me that guy. It's so frustrating watching this team try to build around the running game with a quarterback who belongs in the pocket, and they can't keep pressure out of his face. They've had the worst interior line for like the last 4 years. It goes beyond Cousins' years in Minnesota. Oh, man. Saw Denver win it in 2015. Always will be happy. See, I wish I was like that, Dylan. I wish there was one game, one title where I could be like, hey, can't take that away from me. But, you know, as a Viking fan, you're always doomsday prepping. What's the worst thing that can happen at this given moment? I've had the thought, a couple of years ago I thought of this. What if the Vikings win a championship and then it turns out they were cheating? Like with the Astros. Now I've seen it happen. So if the Vikings ever win a title, it's going to be like 3 years of anxiety where I'm like, hopefully they don't uncover anything. Like, hopefully if they did cheat, they hit it pretty well. Oh, man. Do you think Kevin Stefanski's departure is the reason behind Cousins' woes, or is it solely on Cousins? I think it's all on Cousins. Like, the first play of the game last week, play action, throws it straight to Deion Jones. He just didn't read the field properly. And so many of interceptions are of the bonehead variety this season. I could forgive it if he was just taking shots downfield and these were intercepted 40 yards downfield. I haven't gone through the tape on all the interceptions, but I feel like the vast majority of Cousins' picks have been within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and they've been largely on quick passes. This is stuff he needs to be doing well. Just process. He's throwing to his first read oftentimes and getting picked off. That's all on him. Yes, the membership is $5 monthly. Try being a Jets fan. I mean, you got the worst head coach in the NFL, without a doubt. I can't believe Adam Gase is a head coach. And honestly, when Gase is fired, and we're just counting down the days at this point, will he get an OC job somewhere? Do you want him anywhere near your offense, your quarterback? Like, I don't know if he'll be in the NFL next year, honestly. Another super chat. Keenum or Cousins? At least Keenum got you further than Cousins has. All right, Robert, that comes down simply to price, I think, at this point. You know, back when this whole discussion began, Cousins versus Keenum. At first, I was on Keenum's side, and then I talked myself out of it because I do think Cousins is the better quarterback. He is the better passer. I think he's a better quarterback. Keenum was better that year than Cousins has ever been, but obviously Keenum has gone to 3 different teams afterwards, and nothing similar has happened. But Keenum at backup salary money or Cousins at starting salary money? I'd have to go Case Keenum now. At least you'd have another $20 million to make the team better and put an NFL caliber guard in front of him. Thoughts on Tua being named starter? That's a shock, Gary. It's really shocking, but I kind of like it. You know, Fitz is playing really well, but if you're Miami right now, the door is cracked open for a wild card spot, especially this year with 7 teams going to the postseason in each conference. If you think Tua's ready, let it rip. If he's looked good in practice, if he's developing good chemistry with Parker and Williams and Gesicki, Fitzpatrick wasn't the future. And you know Fitzpatrick's going to take this well. Like, I don't think... Fitzpatrick has one of the better attitudes at quarterback in the NFL. He knows who he is. He is very self-aware. He is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fans love him. He has great games. He has awful games. He's had a lot more great games this year. But obviously, the future is Tua, and I don't think it's a bad choice to give him a chance to start. Madison disappointed me in fantasy. Yeah, Drew, that was rough. I played him a lot in DFS on Sunday, and that didn't go well. It's not the first time this has really happened, though. Last year, Mike Boone got the spot start. People jumped on him, and he didn't do much against Packers. But Cousins, he ruined the game flow. First play of the game, interception. Falcons score a touchdown. His interceptions have been awful. I'll cut him a break early in the year. I think BC Johnson caused 2 interceptions. There was at least one. Went right through his hands to a defender. That's not on Kirk. But I think that if you were to go back through all his interceptions, at least 7 or 8 have been Cousins' fault. What's up, man? How short do you think Zimmer's leash is, even though he just signed an extension? Thank you, Rec. So, Zimmer, yeah, that's an important thing here. He and Rick Spielman, the GM, signed extensions before the season began that will lock them to the team through 2023, I think. It's a 3-year extension. So, NFL coaching salaries are guaranteed, which is also weird. Head coach salaries, fully guaranteed. Player salaries, on a player-by-player basis, and the vast majority of players are not on a fully guaranteed deal. So when it comes to Mike Zimmer, I think finally the conversation needs to be had. I think that now, after watching 6+ years of Coach Zimmer, he is an above average head coach, but he is not like top 5 or 7. I would say Zimmer is a fringe top 10 coach in the NFL, and I think he's been the best Vikings coach in a long time. He has the third highest win percentage in Viking history. He has coached the third most games in Viking history as well. In 6 complete years, the Vikings have made the playoffs 3 times. They've won the division 2 times. And out of active head coaches, Zimmer is 15th in win percentage. My main question with Zimmer. Hey, thanks T-Swag for becoming a new member on the channel. I appreciate that. My thing with Zimmer right now is he the right coach for this team at this point in time? Like, every coach basically coaches until they're fired. The vast majority just coach until they're fired for one reason or another. Andy Reid wasn't fired from Philadelphia because he stopped being a good head coach. It was just time to go. Sometimes a coach's message no longer resonates with players, and sometimes it's just time to start over with a new coach, maybe with a different style, different philosophies, just because change is needed. And you can't ask a head coach to change their ways. That's what I'm wondering. Is Zimmer losing the players at all? And I don't know the answer to that question. You can look at Sunday's game against the Falcons and say that's an example of a coach losing his team. The thing is I've watched that game for the last 6 years. The Vikings do that every year a couple times. I have no clue why. They will be completely ill-prepared for about 12% of their games. If it happens twice a year, that's 12.5%. I don't get it. I understand the loss to the Eagles in the playoffs. That's often how teams respond from emotional wins. Happens all the time. It just happened in the NBA Finals. The Heat had that amazing game. Jimmy Butler he took over, but they ran out of steam and they got steamrolled after that. I'm talking about games like 2016 against the Colts. Some of you will remember that game. I'm talking about 2020 against the Colts. I'm talking about week 1 against the Packers. I'm talking about 2018 against the Bears. 2018 against the Bills. They have these games where they just do not show up. And the fact that it happened against the Falcons to me is a problem because I still think the Vikings are a better team than Atlanta. But they got destroyed on Sunday. The Vikings' range of outcomes is just maddening. They have had no shows in effectively half their games this year. Packers, Colts, Falcons. And then they take Tennessee down to the wire. They take Seattle down to the wire, and they should have won that game. And then they beat the Texans. They would have blown them out, by the way, if Harrison Smith didn't get ejected. The Texans were only in that game because Watson was able to target George Iloka, who was with the team for like 3 days, practicing as a slot corner, and suddenly had to go play safety and was completely lost. Gave up 2 touchdowns in that game. Synthros, thank you for becoming a new member on the channel. I appreciate that. When it comes to Zimmer, though, here's my thing right now. Even if you want to fire him, you don't do it mid-season. One of the reasons, I have 2 reasons why you don't fire Zimmer right now, even if you plan to do it later. One, I think he's been a good coach in his tenure, and I would like to see him have a chance to clean up the mess. Second reason, the defense is very young, and his coaching and teaching is useful right now, and you lose that if you fire him. Cam Dantzler, Jeff Gladney, Eric Wilson, DJ Wanham. They have a lot of young guys taking snaps right now on defense. And even if you want to fire Zimmer, I would keep him for the sole reason of coaching those guys up until the end of the year. Even if you want to fire Zimmer, he's useful right now for that development. Trailer Park's Finest, thank you for becoming a new member on the channel. I've thought a lot about Zimmer the last few days, though, and if this should be the end of his era with the Vikings. And if they want to stick with him for another year, I am cool with that. I just look at the hand he's been dealt as the Vikings head coach, and if he knew what he'd have to go through, I don't know if he'd take the job if he could have looked into the future. He's twice lost his starting quarterback. He has dealt with off-the-field issues with this team. He has had to deal with a front office that has not always given him the right players, especially along the offensive line. Like, I think Zimmer is a really good coach, and I'd love to see what would happen if there were just a little more stability to deal with. I do think Zimmer has some weaknesses as a coach, and I do have doubts that he can take the Vikings to the Super Bowl at any point, but he is a good coach, and I just don't know what your alternatives are at this case, because Eric Bieniemy, he's going to be the highly sought after coach in the offseason, and I think Bieniemy is about to get like the #1 prospect treatment. You know, like the #1 basketball player that can go to Duke, Kansas, UNC, wherever he wants to go. I think that's Bieniemy in the offseason. Any vacancy, he can have it. And if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I'm going to Houston. I want Deshaun Watson. Keep your rookies. I want a stable quarterback day one if I can get it. They got some playmakers. The defense is kind of a mess. But if you can start day one, step up to your job, and you got Deshaun Watson under center, you're going to be in pretty good shape, I think. And if you're Eric Bieniemy coaching Patrick Mahomes the last 3 years, do you really want to start over? Maybe. I don't know what he wants to do. But why not go to Deshaun Watson? Locked in elite quarterback day one. Love it. Exactly. In the name of the game, when you are in a front office or a coach in the NFL, the name of the game is job security. You know how hard it is to hold on to a job for 5-6 years? Very difficult. You want a place where you can call home. These players have families. They don't want to uproot and move all over the country every couple of years. Job security is the name of the game. Imagine starting your job with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. Who do you have? Giants versus Eagles? I have Eagles. It'll be like a scoregami game. It'll be like 18 to 9 or something like that. It'll just be ugly. I'm gonna watch it. Somehow gotta get through it, I guess. I watch as much as I can. I watch the Vikings whenever they're on, although after Julio scored his second touchdown on Sunday, I turned the game off. I was done. I watched Red Zone the rest of the day. So I didn't see Thielen's or Jefferson's touchdowns until Red Zone turned them on. I was done. I didn't want to watch garbage time Kirk Cousins raise his passer rating and go over 300 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. Don't snitch, but I'm in class right now while watching this. Good to go, Braven. Oh, man. Want to catch up here on a couple super chats. I'm going to be a little bit behind because I have some monologues to go through, I guess. Where did I leave off? Oh, Gio, Nate Sheffield fan club. Yeah. I think I'm going to start Nate Sheffield in the next episode of the Broncos franchise. I want to see what we can do with him. Bengals maybe 1-4-1, but Joe Burrow has me excited again. If the team learned how to close games, we could be so much better. Yeah. I think Joe Burrow and T. Higgins have been a very nice addition to the team. AJ Green's taken a step back. You're going to have to go probably BPA on defense next year. But hey, with Burrow, I haven't watched a full game of his in a little bit. So I don't really know exactly how he's playing right now. But from what I have seen, it looks kind of shaky. But Just kind of typical growing pains. He's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He's been sacked like before Sunday like 7 times more than Aaron Rodgers has. Dwayne Haskins to the Vikings. I don't know where Haskins is going to go next. It kind of feels like time is running out for him in Washington. I do think the Vikings have to take that backup quarterback spot more seriously. They have Sean Mannion, and from what I understand about Sean Mannion is he's a good guy to have in the quarterback room. So he's basically a glorified QB coach and like offensive analyst or something. I don't think you're ever going to win games with him starting. So I don't understand having him as the only real backup to Kirk Cousins. I think you have to have somebody else to at least be developing and getting practice reps. I don't care if it's Josh Rosen, Dwayne Haskins, just another human being that can take snaps there. Because I don't think that Jake Browning or Nate Stanley is going to be that guy. They didn't get preseasons this year to show any other stuff though, so longtime fan of the Franchise Dynasty content, loving the Austin Venom rebuild. Thoughts on Pittsburgh and Tennessee? Tighten up, keep up the great content. Pittsburgh's fantastic. They're one of the most complete teams in the league, although I thought their passing game would be doing a little bit more. Deontay Johnson's been hurt, and Juju Smith-Schuster, where's he at? Beginning of the year with Big Ben back, Juju looked pretty good. And now it's just kind of the Chase Claypool show, and they should probably just trade James Washington. That or, you know, go 4 deep at receiver. That's always nice, especially when Johnson's been hurt the last couple of weeks. But, man, Claypool's coming on so strong. I can't believe how fast, too, because he was supposed to be just super raw. And a lot of these guys come into the league, and it takes them a long time to adjust. But not him. He's special. Even if they have a bad enough record this season to draft a young quarterback, do you have trust in Spielman and company to pick and develop the right quarterback? Honestly, no, I don't. Whatever they're prioritizing as far as like quarterback traits, I do question because I liked when they drafted Teddy. But the Cousins situation is a big mistake, and I have no idea how much of a hand Spielman had in the Christian Ponder draft. So, for Spielman on quarterbacks, for me, Teddy was fine, not top tier. I don't have a problem with the drafting of Teddy, but I do have a big problem with the identifying of Cousins and extending given the results. And so, I've talked about Zimmer a little bit. I don't think he should be fired right now. If you want to fire him at the end of the year, I can understand why. But I think right now, the fact that no one's been fired and Cousins didn't get benched on Sunday, that to me sends a bad message. You're telling me the GM, Rick Spielman, can do as bad of a job as he's done this year and nothing happens, and Cousins can play awful and he doesn't even get benched. Where's the accountability on the team? Like, I just don't understand that. I don't like the message that sends. To me right now, if it were up to me, as much as I've liked him over the years, I would fire Rick Spielman right now. I would send a message and say, clock's ticking. Fix it or you're gone. And that goes for Zimmer and the veterans, most of the veterans on the team. I think what Spielman's done this year is a fireable offense. I have a lot of reasons why. First off, Kirk's contract and Kirk's play. That is the big problem. That's one of the biggest problems. You extended Kirk Cousins for cap space, which I understand in some instances. but you did it in a year where you were losing half of your defensive starters. I don't care how average or bad they were. Continuity matters, and just look at what teams are doing to this defense. Rhodes, gone. Wayne's gone. Alexander, gone. Griffin, gone. Linval, gone. Anthony Barr is hurt. Can't do nothing about that. Michael Pierce opted out. I won't judge anybody on that decision. Danielle Hunter hurt, not your fault. The trade for Ngakoue, I was a fan of that. It's a second-round pick for a good player. I didn't realize Hunter's injury was going to be so severe, but it sure would be nice if they had those two together right now, taking pressure off these corners who have not been good enough. So my first problem with Rick Spielman this year is the Cousins extension. You have effectively been wrong on Cousins to this point. The way he's played this year is a big reason why the Vikings are 1-5. Second reason is the continued lack of quality along the offensive line. It's great that he found Brian O'Neill in the second round. Riley Reif is playing better. Garrett Bradbury's playing better. But what are we doing at guard? Are you kidding me? Double-digit pressures allowed by Dozier and Samia, and they haven't even played every snap. These guys might be okay sometimes in the running game, but as soon as the Vikings get into their 2-minute offense, I get very anxious because it means you're not calling play action. It's straight drops, stand in the pocket, and deliver. And that usually means with at least one defender in the face of Cousins. There's no going through your progressions. If that first guy isn't open, guess it was a bad play. I am so tired of what this team wants to do at guard. The Vikings have the 32nd ranked offensive line spending in the NFL this year. They have one quality veteran in Riley Reif, who I think should be on the trade block right now. They have Brian O'Neill on his rookie deal. He's going to be expensive and you better pay him. Bradbury's playing better, that's great. But you have guards who are not in the top 40 or 50 at their positions. They are not starting caliber guards. The Vikings somehow can run the ball. Sometimes. They run for a lot of yards. But when it comes to like short yardage situations, I like to see the numbers there. Because they get destroyed when the defense doesn't have to respect play action. The guard play has been awful. And guards should not be a topic of conversation with the football team. You should not be sitting here talking about how guards are sinking the ship. And that's been the case for 4+ years. I understand if there are injuries. But they came into the season healthy at guard, largely. Pat Elflein hurt. He's also not been very good the last couple of years. I don't understand how you can invest in running back, invest in quarterback, and not invest in guard. Other teams can figure it out, but the Vikings haven't. So, my reasons for firing Rick Spielman right now. Strike one, Kirk Cousins extension. You're extending a quarterback who is having the worst year of his career. And I think that, I don't know, this is only an assumption. I think he's losing support in the locker room. I would say right now, if Kirk Cousins wasn't the Vikings quarterback, Stephon Diggs would still be a Viking. I think Cousins is a big reason why he left. Not because Cousins can't play well, but because I think Cousins caps your ceiling as a team. I watch some Minnesota sports radio, or I guess I listen to it. Sometimes I watch the videos too. Mackey and Judd for Score North. Some of you will know who I'm talking about. I think it was Phil Mackey said that Kirk Cousins will never win a Super Bowl. I agree, but I'll take it a step further. Kirk Cousins will never play in a conference title game either. And he'll never have a first-round bye. I just don't think you can go far enough with Cousins. And the fact that you extended him and you're already being proven wrong, that's strike one. The offensive line is strike two. Strike three is what they did not do for the secondary coming into the year, and where they've allocated funds defensively. My strike three is Spielman's handling of the defense. My problem is you went into this year knowing the offseason was not going to be normal. You also went into this season knowing preseason was not going to happen. And what did you do looking at Aaron Rodgers week 1 on the schedule? You said, we're moving on from our top 3 corners, we're bringing back Mike Hughes, and then we're going to play rookies with no preseason. What did you think was going to happen week 1? First NFL action in their lives. And these are not like top players. Jeff Gladney, late first round pick. Cam Dantzler, 4th round pick. And you're expecting these guys to just step in with no preseason and play at an acceptable level? Why didn't you sign either Prince Amukamara or Dre Kirkpatrick? And I don't care about scheme fit or how old they are. You have no experience at corner. And now what's happened? Predictably, the corners are having growing pains. And they're having them simultaneously because they have to play together at the same time. And teams are attacking them. They're starting to make a few plays. Not enough. Holton Hill, not that good. Mike Hughes, average at best. The fact that you came into this season so ill-prepared defensively, I think is very irresponsible. And part of that also has to do with the fact that you paid 2 safeties and 2 linebackers that play off the ball. You can't do that in 2020. The 2 least important positions on defense are safety and inside linebacker, and the Vikings have paid 4 players at those positions. I'm cool with having Harrison. I'm cool with having Kendricks. But can you really justify having both Barr and Anthony Harris? And then what you have at corner? It's a passing league. You gotta have corners. And you had at least average corners for a few years. Trey Waynes wasn't great, but we're seeing just how much worse it can be. So I would fire Rick Spielman for those 3 reasons. The lack of proper defensive resource allocation. Kirk Cousins and the offensive line. Strike 3, you're out. This is the first time, by the way, I've ever felt that he should be fired. I was able to look past a lot of the other mishandlings with the team because he's done so much right. And he has done a pretty good job in some areas of the team. Like finding and making the most out of some of these late round picks. Danielle Hunter, you find one of the best edge rushers in the NFL in the 3rd round. Although, you know, that's a team effort. Andre Patterson, phenomenal defensive line coach. Big reason why Danielle Hunter is so dominant. He's made some solid free agent acquisitions. Linval Joseph was a tremendous signing. In the same year, that was 2015, they signed Captain Munnerlyn, and that was nickel corner was a big problem for the Vikings at that time, and that was a pretty good signing. Anthony Harris, undrafted, turns into a very quality safety. Back on the offensive side, undrafted tryout Adam Thielen, 5th round pick Stephon Diggs. Best receiver tandem when they were together in Minnesota. And now Justin Jefferson. You had to pick from about 14 top 3 round caliber receivers, and guess what? You nailed it. You got the guy playing the best right now. There isn't a rookie receiver playing better, I think, than Justin Jefferson. Am I biased? Probably. Who knows? CeeDee Lamb's been great. Chase Claypool's been great. But Jefferson looks like a veteran. He looks like he's been in the league for 3 years. So I think Rick Spielman's done a very good job in some areas, but his weaknesses are so weak, and he's doubled down on them. By not addressing the offensive line interior, you are effectively doubling down on who you have. And when you give Kirk Cousins an extension, you are literally doubling down with big money. That was a 2-year, $66 million extension. So, the way things are looking right here for the Vikings, I feel that we're seeing this chapter and era close. And I wonder who's all going to be gone next year. Because if you want to go with a brand new head coach, I think you have to clean house on the roster. And so if you want to start over roster-wise, on the defense, you keep Harrison Smith, you keep Eric Kendricks, you keep Danielle Hunter. Everybody else is expendable. On offense, Garrett Bradbury, Brian O'Neill, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, and Justin Jefferson. Everybody else can be expendable. And that's not to say I don't like guys like Alexander Madison or really young guys. I'm talking about real, like, the core guys. Ngakoue, it's going to be tough. They have negative $8 million in cap space next year. Is Ngakoue good enough to keep around? Absolutely. He's been great. The Vikings defense would be allowing more points than the Cowboys if it didn't have him. But I don't know how you pull it off. And if you're Ngakoue, you show up to Minnesota, finally, out of Jacksonville. Well, now you're 1-5. The team sucks, and you might be losing the coach's trust. What's going to make him want to stick around? He can get paid anywhere. Do you really want to get paid around the mess that is the Vikings right now? And then it's like, you know, you step outside your front door and it's 25 degrees in October. I check the weather like every day in Minnesota. I'm petty like that. But I don't know why he would want to stick around at this point. Yeah, Ngakoue has all the leverage. He's like a mid-20s elite pass rusher. Like, there are 32 teams that want him. If I were Ngakoue and I had to leave this team, I wouldn't pick the Giants. I would pick a team that went to the playoffs last year. Highest bidder out of whoever went to the playoffs. Whoever offers the most guaranteed money. I see why Trent Williams didn't want in. And the thing is they haven't needed Trent Williams. Like, Reef and O'Neal are a fine tackle tandem. They are not the best. They are average at worst. PFF grades them pretty well right now. Tackle ain't a problem, but there are others. Hey, Chris, thank you for becoming a member. Oh, man. Now, there are a lot of things that annoy me about the Minnesota Vikings that are all their fault. There's also one thing that's been bothering me that isn't their fault. It's simply unlucky. I want to talk to y'all about field goal kicking. And not Dan Bailey and the Vikings kicking. He's been fine. He's been good. I'm talking about... Let me start first. In 2020, here are your best kickers in the league right now. These are all the top percentages out of kickers who have attempted more than 2 kicks on the season. Younghoe Koo, 15 for 16. Graham Gano, booted from the Panthers and now 15 of 16. Justin Tucker, best kicker in the NFL, 13 out of 14. I want to know, who is the best kicker in the NFL right now? Let me know. Who's been the best kicker in 2020, actually? McManus, I think, is a couple percentage points lower. The best kicker in the NFL is not on that list. It's not Justin Tucker. The best kicker in 2020 is whoever plays against the Minnesota Vikings. This is literally ridiculous. No one's missed a kick against him all season. Steven Gostkowski almost loses his job on national TV. Comes back 2 weeks later. 6 out of 6. 3 out of 3 from 50 plus. And the Titans win by 1. No one misses against the Vikings. I don't care that they're indoors. I don't care that there are no fans. This is unacceptable. Check the box scores. A kicker has not missed a kick against the Minnesota Vikings in 8 games. And that was an extra... No, I think it was a field goal by Will Lutz. In the last 10 games, there have been 2 misses. Do I have to watch a team that's flawed and unlucky at the same time? I can't believe it. I can't believe that's real. Gostkowski was 6 for 6, yes. I looked around the internet, and it looks like NFL kickers, on average, make about 85% of their kicks. The top tier make over 90. Against the Vikings right now, 100%. Extra points on average, about 93.8%. That's the number I found. 100%. And on 50-plus yard field goals, the data I found was from 538, and it was a study, I guess, from 2010 to 2015. And at that time, 50-plus yard field goals were made on a 60 to 65% rate. Against the Vikings, 100%. I don't like this. So when you're watching the Vikings again, and thankfully it's not this weekend, the bye week is coming at a perfect point to where I just don't want to watch them next week anyway. I'd like to watch 6 hours of Red Zone, thank you very much. So I could take a week off from watching the Vikings, and then great, the Packers are up next. But next time you watch the Vikings, pay attention. How long can they go? Can they get to 40 out of 40 kicks? Can they make it to 50? Can they do it? Ruggs ain't no bust. First of all, it's way too early to say that about anybody, and Henry Ruggs, when hasn't been hurt this year, he's made an impact. He was so good against Kansas City. His impact was felt right away in week 1. How many wins do the Vikings get to? So a lot of people are on the tank for Trevor train, and I understand why you'd want Trevor Lawrence, but right now you got to realize there are teams that have it worse than the Vikings, and the Vikings, I'd say right now, are a lot closer to Tanner Morgan than Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. Maybe Trey Lance if you get 3rd pick at a quarterback. The Vikings, I think this year will finish with about 5 wins. Because here's the thing, as bad as they've been in a lot of their games, they've also won a game semi-convincingly and then been within a single point of 2 teams that have yet to lose this year. The Jets, okay, the Vikings aren't as bad as the Jets. There is no way they are as bad as the Jets. Or the New York Giants. Washington, at this point, it's a toss-up, I'd say. I'd probably give the edge to the Chargers. The Vikings are not a very good football team, but they're probably not going to be bad enough to pick in the top 3. I think they'll pick more like 9th. And we'll be having the debate, will a quarterback fall? Is 9 too early to select a guard? No, it's not. It's not. Take a guard whenever you can get one. I don't care. Yeah, the Jaguars are pretty bad. They have a head-to-head later in the year that's going to probably decide some draft positioning. Trade up. It's hard to trade up in the first round with no second-round pick. That's gone now. Jags are 9.5 underdogs against the Chargers in LA. That's a wide spread for 2 awful teams. Although I'll say I didn't think much of Justin Herbert coming into the year. He's playing 1 well, 2 with a lot of confidence. And if the Money Badger sinks that kick, man, we'd be talking about him a little bit. That catch by Mike Williams to set him up, I can't believe that was put to waste. That was bad. San Francisco, I don't think is that great of a team this year. And with the injuries, I think they're an 8-8 team. I haven't seen their schedule, so I'm not sure like how strong or weak it gets. But I like the other 3 teams in that division more than them. The Rams, not by much. But the Cardinals and Seahawks for sure. The Steelers should win that division, I think. I think they'll win the division over Baltimore and Cleveland. But we'll see. Chicago, I mean, they've overachieved. The Bears aren't as good as their record indicates, but their defense is legit. And, I mean, you can't watch the Bears offense and say they're good. They have 1 promising player on offense, and that's Allen Robinson. Oh, Darnell Mooney. Let's put some respect on Darnell Mooney's name. He's making some plays, too. Winning is winning. That's true. The Bears are getting it done, even if it's not flashy. And, if they can improve their running game, which I don't think they can, but they would have a formula, I think, that you could pull off some playoff upsets or something. David Montgomery, not as good as I thought he'd be. And then no Tariq Cohen. I know Cohen hasn't been great in a while, but he offered something different to the offense. And I thought, like, if they could open things up at least a little bit, he would shine a bit more this season. With Trubisky, like, a player like Cohen doesn't get a ton of great opportunities. I think a big reason why Cohen wasn't great the last couple of years is because of Trubisky. The main thing, just the teams can stack the box, and where Cohen's at his best is honestly catching the ball out of the backfield. And there's just no space. He's a space player, and there is no space when Trubisky's under center. Would you fire Zimmer in your opinion? I would wait till the end of the year and evaluate how like the team does from this point on. I would not fire him right now. I think even if you want to fire him, I mentioned this earlier in the stream, even if you want to fire Mike Zimmer, he's still useful from a developmental standpoint, coaching up these young DBs and just all the youth across this defense. And I think like he deserves, like they're 1-5. Like the season's sunk at this point. At least show him some respect for being a good coach. I think that he's been a very quality coach for the last 6+ years. And I would at least show him that respect and give him a chance to, you know, earn future trust too. Because as bad as things have looked at times in the Zimmer era, they bounce back. They find the bottom and they bounce back. Last year when Cousins was not playing well against the Packers and Bears, and the Diggs trade rumors heated up, like, Zimmer kept the team on track, or he got them on track. And then Cousins played the best he's ever played in his career. And I was hoping that was like Cousins getting over the hump and at least taking his game up half a notch. Not even a full one. I'm not saying Cousins is ever going to be a top 10 quarterback, because he's not. Cousins bounces around between like performances that rank just inside the top 10 and outside the top 20. He is all over the place. The volatility in his play is just unreal. I can understand it when you're like Jameis Winston playing in this really aggressive passing offense, but Cousins does a lot of the same fluctuations in play in a run-heavy play-action offense. I don't think Cousins is anywhere near Romo's level. I think Romo was just underappreciated because of the other players you could praise over him. That was Peyton, Brady, and Breeze at the top of their games. Romo was always good. He always caught a lot of flack, but he was solid. I don't think Stefanski is the difference, no. I think that it's a combination of just Kirk's bad games showing up in bulk. And, on top of that, like, a defense being good takes pressure off the offense, and offense being good takes pressure off the defense. Well, just so much is going against Cousins, and he's a quarterback who requires a very clean environment to succeed. The defense is the worst it's been in his time as a Viking. The offensive line is still bad, but it's not better. And he's got weapons. Just things have to be way too perfect for Kirk, and that's why I'm out on him. The game of football is too imperfect. You can set everything up, and then your star defensive player, your number one most important player, tears his ACL, and now you're reeling the rest of the year, and someone's got to pick up the slack. And to me, Cousins is not a quarterback that can pick up any slack. He will not make up for any of your deficiencies. None of them. Who would you prefer over Kirk? Realistically, that they could obtain? I think I'd have more fun if they threw Fitzpatrick out there every week. He can run away from some of this pressure a little bit. The main thing is I just like another young quarterback, I think, to develop at this point. That is the successful business model under this CBA in the NFL. Young quarterback, very cheap, invest elsewhere, support him, get an offensive-minded coach, and run. That's the blueprint, I think, that teams want to follow. And I have another thought here, like, the game is only getting more offensively focused, right? And I think that we're seeing, like, in some cases, some coaches taking it to a pretty good level as far as their game strategy and play calling. Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City and Andy Reid together, they do a great job. I'm not exactly sure how the dynamic works there between them, because obviously Reid is an offensive-minded head coach. I think Bieniemy calls the plays, correct? But Sean Payton, I think he does a really good job in New Orleans as well with most of his play calling. Although I think he just likes Taysom Hill a little too much. I like what Cliff Kingsbury is doing. I think McVay is a very good play designer. But I wonder now, at the current state in the NFL, are you putting yourself at a disadvantage by having a defensive head coach? Because even if you have an offensive coordinator who is good, and the Vikings did in Kevin Stefanski, if your OC is showing any signs that he's a quality OC, he's going to get a head coaching job. And that creates a problem because if you don't really have a system, you're just going to be swapping out coordinators, and that's really tough on a young quarterback. That can stunt their growth. So doesn't it make the most sense to have an offensive-minded coach, and as long as he's there, you're going to run the same system? Like, I'd rather have change on defense than offense. Although change on defense can hurt. Look at Dallas. Have you switched mentality to go for football instead? Pretty much. I mean, the Vikings letting me down. The Twins. Oh, man. I got some thoughts on Minnesota as well. Is my chat not updating? The Twins, I enjoyed watching the regular season. But the Twins, their pitching was so much better this year, and it made zero difference in the playoffs. And I think it's because their offensive philosophy is a regular season philosophy. Yeah, when you get to play 40 games against the Tigers and Royals, I bet your home run oriented lineup is going to get you some wins. Those teams stink. But this Twins brand of offensive baseball doesn't work in the playoffs. You need more than home runs because you're going to face quality pitchers, and you can't rely on 5 solo home runs. You need guys that don't strike out. I saw a stat recently that the highest correlation with postseason success is strikeout rate. The less strikeouts you have, the better you tend to be in the playoffs. You got to put the ball in play. Teams strategize differently in the playoffs. First off, good luck making the playoffs with bad pitchers. So first off, you're facing good pitchers. Second, you're facing playoff strategy, which means that teams are a bit more cutthroat about when they bring in relievers or bring in starters. You get way more quality pitched innings, and if all you have is solo home runs in your arsenal, you're gonna get blown away. You need more. Rays have highest strikeout percentage. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be outliers, but the long view in general is high strikeout rate does not tend to do well in the playoffs. And I think that they need to look at bringing in some guys that can do more than hit homers. So if I were the Twins, I would look to probably move on from Eddie Rosario, see what you can get in a trade, and maybe even Miguel Sano. It's obviously risky, just changing up a lineup, especially for a team that has made the playoffs and has been good and fun to watch. But I don't think the Twins have a playoff formula that can be successful. Yeah, what do the Rockies even do? Because if you're a pitcher, do you even want to go to Colorado? Like, that's a great place to kill your career. Unless it's like the big contract that's going to, like, you know, make the bulk of your money for your career. Like, yeah, if you're a star, maybe you go to Colorado because no matter what, you're getting paid. But if you're not paid yet, why would you want to pitch for the Rockies? And not only half the games in Colorado, but you're going to go down to the desert in Arizona and pitch another handful of games there. And then you're going to pitch against the Dodgers. Like, it's just a bad situation there. I don't know what the Rockies should do. They should switch to the American League, probably. Rockies should just get 5 knuckleballers. Now, that's an idea. Imagine nothing but knuckleballs in the eephus pitch. The Rockies might have a chance then to outscore somebody. 7 of the top 10 teams in batting average missed the playoffs. I'm not saying you have to optimize for average, but I'm saying that they've probably skewed too far in the home run strikeout side of things. They're a team that this year just hit solo home runs. And then Luis Ariz is the only guy that can hit a single. I don't care about batting average. I don't care about guys hitting over 300. It's nice, but I don't think it should be what you optimize for. I think guys that hit 270 with pop and can do more than home runs and don't strike out a million times a season are guys you can build teams around. I don't want Jared Goff, no. I thought the Rams should do what I did in my Broncos franchise and just swap out Goff for another quarterback and keep the team intact. But that's a very bad decision to make when you are focused on job security. That's a risky call. You can do that in Madden, but IRL, I don't think I would have even made that decision. Yeah, I got to catch up on some super chats. Thank you all for all the messages so far. It's been fun to just come on and hang out. All right. Drew asks, and I'm sorry I took so long to respond to these. I feel bad for the wild card team in the NFC that gets booted out by the Cowboys or Eagles. Yeah. Oh man. Although with a seventh wild card spot, I doubt there's going to be a team that misses that, like, oh, they should have been over Dallas, who went 7-9. I don't know if that'll be the case this year. There are some bad teams out there. Kirk is turning the Vikings into the mid-2000s Washington team by perpetually going around 500, so you can't add elite talent in the draft. Yeah, I mean, Cousins is just like... His teams usually have very average results. He puts up good numbers. Like, he is a quarterback. Like, if you were to go into a laboratory and build a quarterback that was optimized to have a high passer rating, it's Kirk Cousins. At least you're not a Cowboys fan. It's horrible down here. As bad as it's been, you're still like favorites to win the division, which is so weird. If you can just figure it out at any point. But we'll see about that East division. I love the NFC East. Like, they are so entertaining, and sometimes it's because, you know, they're good. Like, the NFC East in the 2000s, they were pretty good. The Cowboys with Romo, the Giants with Eli when they were at their best, Philly with McNabb, Washington, you know, wasn't usually that great, but they just always get put on prime time. And the NFC East games usually deliver either a quality, fun game to watch, or it's so bad, it's fun to watch. I'll take that too. This year, they're all awful, and it's hilarious. You got 4 bad teams in one division. The Vikings and Lions are both really bad. The Falcons are terrible. The Panthers are overachieving a bit right now. I don't think they're going to be in a terrible group. And then in the NFC West, no one is like garbage, but San Francisco is kind of mediocre. So there are some real bad teams in the NFC. And when they go head to head, it's usually pretty funny. Because of the movie Draft Day, I used to call Marshall Newhouse a name because of how bad he was. Drew Samia has now earned that nickname. Yeah, Samia hasn't been very good, and he shouldn't have been starting to begin with. You can't go into the season with him as the best you got. You just can't. Maybe he just ain't good enough to play. But regardless, you should have identified that earlier. Bengals O-line is way worse than the Vikings. It probably is, because the Vikings have like 2 solid tackles right now and a center that's playing decent. But when you have 2 holes at guard and the pressure can just walk straight through the middle, like, you're in trouble. What about trading for Dwayne Haskins if the price is right, since Rivera is clearly out on him? I mean, I would not be against it. I know he's a first-round pick, which means he has first-round money, is all. And the Vikings have, like, no cap space as it is right now. So if I had Haskins, I don't know if I'd want him on his rookie contract. I have to see what it's worth. And it would have to be, like, a very low pick. A conditional pick or something. Rookie contracts aren't usually like big, but first rounders, I mean, they will carry a little bit of weight. What's Haskins' deal? Because if it's even like $4 million a year or something like that, like it's too much given the Vikings' current state, and it's a little over 3. So I don't think I'd trade for that contract. The Vikings are in such a bad cap situation where a $3 million contract gives me, you know, hesitation. All right, every now and then, this just stops updating the chat on this screen, so I need to switch to a new one. I appreciate y'all being in here, though. It's been a fun stream to this point. Saw a mock that had the Vikings getting Waddle. Yeah, let's just go all in here on wide receivers and stick with Kirk Cousins. And there's not much you can do with Cousins. The best hope the Vikings had of getting rid of Kirk Cousins was Jimmy Garoppolo playing terrible on Sunday Night Football. And he didn't play bad enough. But I don't think Kyle Shanahan would even want Kirk Cousins right now. Not that it would be his call either. What do you think about Tanner Morgan as a QB prospect? Love the content. Much love from Lake City. I don't know that Morgan is like a future starter, but he is at least a guy that I'd put in the Drew Lock conversation where he's like, maybe he's a starter, maybe he's not, but he's worth a look, and he's a backup at worst. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast or weekly live stream like this where you just talk football? I have, Kenny. And sometimes, you know, I just don't have the time, or I just don't have the desire to do it. So I'm doing this because I really wanted to. I was really like wanting to do this since Sunday afternoon. And maybe I will, you know, have that urge from time to time, but I won't make any promises for sure on that. But it's like, I was watching the Vikings vent line after the game. Like, the Score North does a show after Vikings games called Vikings Vent Line, where it's just like an hour and a half of people calling in, complaining about the team after a loss. And because 3 hours of Vikings football isn't enough, I watch it and just totally wreck my Sunday afternoon. And I just kept coming with my own thoughts in my head of like, here's what I think about the team right now. And I'm like, I should go make a video. And then I thought, no, you're way better in a live setting for this kind of thing. So I did it live. As a 49ers fan, I think if they are going to trade for a former Shanahan quarterback, it would be Matt Ryan, not Cousins. I don't think Atlanta would give up Ryan, but he's been around for a long time, and you have to start thinking about the future. Because Ryan's been playing since 2007. I remember watching the first game of his career, too. I think it was, was he 06? What year was he? Was Ryan the year before 07? 2008. Yeah. 2007 was Adrian's rookie year, which began against the Falcons. It was a 27-3 win, if I'm not mistaken. Vikings, Falcons, 2007. That was a 24-3 game. I'm losing touch here at age 28. I'm getting old. I woke up, like I said before, I think in a stream, I woke up, I had like -3 awareness, catching traffic went down by 2, I lost some speed. I'm in regression land right now, everybody. It's all downhill from here. Tank for Trevor, y'all will be fine. Oh, go Steelers. It won't be fine because the Vikings are not bad enough to get anywhere near Trevor Lawrence. Like I said before, they are closer to Tanner Morgan than they are Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. There's only one thing that I think could put them in that conversation, and I don't want to see it. I'm never going to wish that on anybody. The only way I see them getting to that level is if like Cousins were to get hurt. I don't want Cousins to get hurt. I wanted him to be benched in the second half though. Are you going to make a Madden 21 franchise? I don't really have any thoughts on doing that right now. I'm enjoying the content I am making. It's been 2 months. I don't miss it. Haven't had to do any slider testing. That's pretty nice. Just kind of chilling, making content I enjoy making. I'm going to be recording Broncos right after this stream, and I can't wait. Like, the Broncos franchise especially is so much fun for me to make. Like, I look at my time spent working on that series as 100% leisure time. Like, and I enjoy making the content that I make, but the Broncos especially, it's like, I can do it all day. And there have been days where I have. A few years ago in the series, I played like 4 games back to back to back to back to back. That was a 6-hour session. I can't play video games for 6 hours straight. I get so bored about an hour in most of the time. But I was able to play that for 6 hours in a row, and then I probably just jumped into the editing. Will I do one on next gen? If they do something cool with franchise, maybe. And if they have another round of pre-orders, I'll probably try to get my hands on a PS5. I didn't the first time because I knew it would be difficult and I didn't want to sit around refreshing pages all day long. But I know I'm going to want to get one. And it's not going to be, like, if I were to wait 6 months because I have nothing interesting to play for content, it's not like the console is going to be cheaper 6 months from now. So it won't be under $500 for 2 years probably. So I might as well try to get one as soon as possible and see if I can crank out any content on it. That's probably the soonest you'd see any Madden 21 from me, is next gen, if the November patch is promising. Pre-orders ain't coming soon. Yeah, I'm not even sure what to expect for a supply. What do I think the Vikings plan on doing with Ngakoue? Either trading him, which I would not be against, but realize the defense would be pretty bad if they, even worse if they traded him. But they could recoup a pick. Or they just let him walk. Or I guess they could try to re-sign him. Like, the Vikings are going to have to make cap space after this year. They're probably going to let Harris go, and I would trade him right now. Just because it's a franchise tag. You already have Harrison Smith. Harris is great. I love Anthony Harris. But he's probably not in your future plans. And I don't think you should pay 2 safeties big money anyway. I'd also say they're going to get rid of Rudolph and Anthony Barr and Riley Reiff. So they might have money to pay him. And if you say, okay, we're going to rebuild this thing with 2 stud edge rushers, I'm cool with that. I think next year Ezra Cleveland replaces Riley Reiff. I bet there are a lot of teams right now that would love to trade for him too. Like, if you're the Titans and you're not calling up Rick Spielman to say, hey, Riley Reiff for a 3rd round pick, I don't know what you're doing. You just lost Taylor Lewan. The offensive line is like the soul of that offense. That's what, you know, they have a good running back, but they also give him a good line. I like Ifeadi Odenigbo. I think he's a really versatile player. Love from northern Minnesota. How cold is it, Brody? I know in the cities, down in the Twin Cities, it's like December weather. Northern Minnesota. What's exactly considered northern Minnesota? Because I like the Fargo-Moorhead area, but as far as like directly north from the Twin Cities, just keep going north. I've never been there, actually. Thoughts on the Steelers? Mapletron. Oh, go. What is Mapletron? Is that what they're calling Chase Claypool? Never heard of that. He's been fantastic, though. I mean, he's a problem. Reminds me a lot of what DK Metcalf was doing right away. Just like, here's this guy that is a physical freak, and you're not going to stop him. Oh, living in Fargo-Moorhead right now. Slight snowfall today. Yeah, I think it's worse in the cities, but I like the Fargo-Moorhead area a lot. I've spent a little bit of time there. DK Metcalf is averaging 22 yards per catch. Yeah, that's a bit ridiculous. Thanks for all the content from Canada. Thank you, Isaiah, for that. Can you explain the process of making a Broncos episode? Example, do you game plan each play and have a game plan of snaps for players? So, I wouldn't say I create game plans, but I usually will go through here. So, if you've watched yesterday's episode, you're caught up. If you haven't, I'm about to spoil some stuff. So, yeah, I warned you. I'm pulling up the game right now. Okay, so what I'll do when I'm making an episode is the first thing I do is I take whatever notes I need for the game. So I have, but for a while I had notebooks and I got tired of buying them every like couple of years. So I do it on a tablet now. It's all digitized notes. I just, you know, what week is it? Who's playing? What are the records? And then I go through stats and I start looking for notes and narratives. Like, I think a lot about the narratives for each episode and what, like, the points of emphasis are, who are we playing against, what are they good at, and I'll take notes on just things I want to talk about in the actual episode. So I grab all the stats here, I write down the ones that I think are relevant. I check out the schedules. I look to see, like, okay, what's our, you know, current streak, what's their current streak. For us, it's a 1-game losing streak, and for this next Raiders episode, they're on a 1-game win streak. So I'll take notes on that, and I'll also take a look at their roster just because I want to see some strengths and weaknesses, some areas to attack. And then, you know, I don't really have a set plan going into games like so-and-so is going to play so many snaps. It's kind of just like go with the flow. How's the game going? What do we have to adjust to? And who allows us to make those adjustments, basically. I like to switch out my running backs. It's usually just about fatigue. I don't do it for fun. I do it for role and fatigue. And then I do the same thing for my pass rushers. But, you know, I play the game, fire it up, play it, and then I go through and I edit the game, and I try to edit it in a way that optimally tells the story of the game. So obviously I don't include every single play. One, it would make the video too long, and two, it allows me to better control the storytelling of a game. So there will be games sometimes where, let's say our running game is really struggling. I will purposefully include a lot of our bad running plays so that it's a point of emphasis in the video. Like, okay, our run game was really, really bad today. So whatever I think best tells that game's story is how I kind of edit. A lot of my storytelling, I think football is a game where like third down is like an event. So I think that every possession in a football game, it's kind of like, okay, first off, how are you getting to third down? And then what are you doing on third down? So that's how I structure a lot of the editing. Sometimes I skip out like a 2-yard run on first down because the second down play better explains how we got to third down. So that's what I look at. How are you getting to third down? And what are you doing once you get there? And then, of course, you know, all the big plays are in there. I go through and get a lot of replays so I can give you different angles, and it also buys me time to talk things through a little bit. And then I do the commentary, and I think I've gotten a lot better at live commentary. So it's very different doing post commentary and live commentary, because in post commentary I know what's gonna happen, and I just you can't take that out of your head. I do my best to commentate as somebody who would be watching it for the first time, but there's no 100% getting an authentic live experience there. But I'm comfortable with both formats. I enjoy the commentary for both. Do I switch out wide receivers in secondary frequently? Very infrequently. I don't do a lot of rotation there. I need to do a better job as far as receivers go. And in our next game, I looked at our snap counts, and I'm going to play Tyrone Houston a lot more because he's lagging behind in snaps, and he shouldn't be as far as he is. I'm probably playing Sully a little too much. I'm probably playing Wright at a decent clip, but Wright's played 62 snaps, Houston's played 57, and Sully's at 224. So I'm going to work on the balance there a little bit. How long does the editing the games take? So gameplay for me usually takes around an hour and a half because I take notes, I play the game, and I do post game. Editing takes another hour to hour and a half for my format, and I've just done this so many times. Like, the formula is, I do it in my sleep now. And then the commentary will take another hour and a half. It ranges. If I have like a 23-minute video versus a 30-minute video, it depends. That makes a big difference in it. So each episode, start to finish, has 3 different steps, and each one would total up to be probably 5+ hours. Hey Josh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. What difficulty do you play? So I am on all Madden. I am not on the newest patch. For Madden 20, at a certain point, I said enough's enough. I'm happy with the gameplay. I will not allow it to be messed up. So it is all Madden. And with sliders that Matt 10 made and I tweaked to my liking and preference. So much work went into that slider set. It's unbelievable. So yeah, our next game is against the Oakland Raiders here in the Broncos franchise. I'll be playing that today. Video coming possibly tomorrow, but maybe Thursday. I'm going to do a Kalispell recap episode as well. Some of you want to see the national championship. I'm not against that. Would it be cool? What if I just let it play? I don't do live commentary on the Natty. And then I cut up the highlights and I give it to you as part of the recap episode. Does that sound like a cool idea? And then I can get to work on the docu-series and mapping that out. Thoughts on the Eagles so far this season? They haven't been very good, Sean, obviously. But, I mean, with injuries, that's going to happen. Just the offensive line issues, the fact that Greg Ward is their #1 receiver. It's unfortunate. They've had 3 receiver injuries all season long. And now Dallas Goedert's hurt, and they are a 2 tight end offense. And I think this is probably a little too hot takey, maybe, but I think Goddard might be their best tight end. If he's not, he's gonna be. Yeah, Hakeem Butler. I mean, I want to see him get a chance because I was high on him, and I'm very hit or miss on identifying receivers from college because I was also a Laquan Treadwell guy and a Josh Doxson guy, and I was not a Will Fuller guy. And now, I had the realization last week, Will Fuller is one of my favorite players in the league because it's mostly because of fantasy football. I have played the guy so much over the years, and I've identified every blow-up spot for Will Fuller. I love Will Fuller. I don't care if he drops passes. He doesn't do it a lot, though. Not anymore. His hands are more reliable. Will Fuller is one of my, 10 favorite players in the league. Would I do a Luke Irvin series like I did with Madden 16 with Andy? Player-based series aren't really something I'm interested in right now. I like doing team-based content. I think what really hurts the Eagle offense, though, Goddard is used in such a catch-and-run capacity, and he's good at it, too. I think when he's healthy and he gets the volume, he might not be where Kelsey and Kittle are, but he's going to be in that next step with Darren Waller, I think, and Mark Andrews. Kane, do you do discussion collab videos? I haven't really done a collab video in a long time. Mostly the collaboration I've done has been with Blackjack and him creating creative content for the series. Let's get a quick top 5 of favorite players in the league. Top 5 favorite players in the NFL right now. I wonder if I can even name 5 before I get to Will Fuller. But my favorite quarterback in the NFL, and he has been for years now, is Russell Wilson. Just the guy is incredible. He's running for his life half the time, and he just figures it out. I love watching Russell Wilson play. He is just so dynamic. No moment's ever too big for him, and I don't know how he does what he does. So Russell Wilson's in the top 5 for me. Tyron Matthew, he's just the kind of DB I've always loved watching. He reminds me a lot of Antoine Winfield, and just his versatility, the energy he plays with, the fact that he's such a playmaker. I love Tyron Matthew. I'm trying to not be too Vikings-centric either. And picking my favorite Viking right now is hard. Because, tell me to pick between Harrison, Smith, Eric Kendricks, Hunter, Thielen. It's very hard. So I'm just going away from the Vikings entirely right now, if you don't mind. Who else is my favorite? Oh, man. Julio Jones would be in my top 5. He's another guy that it's partial fantasy football bias because I've played Julio Jones so much, and I've also been able to identify a lot of his blow-up games. But Julio is just special. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, one of the most talented receivers of all time. When you look like since Randy Moss, like just the most gifted receivers, it'd be like Calvin Johnson and Julio. You gotta love Julio Jones. I don't know how you couldn't. So that's not a bad first three, right? Like Russ, Matthew, and Julio. Should Falcons trade Julio and Matt? Go Buckeyes. I don't know if I could ever stomach that. I mean, they're getting older and they've got some rebuilding to do. It's one of those situations where do you trade them and just rip the Band-Aid off? It's gonna hurt, but they're not probably the players that'll carry you to a championship again or the Super Bowl again. Or do you just hope you can figure it out before they call it a career or their play drops off? I don't know, because that's a very emotionally based decision because of who they are, what they've meant to the organization. That's hard to move on. I'm difficult. It's difficult to move on from those guys. All right, I gotta get through two more guys in my top 5 before naming Will Fuller. I wonder if I can do it. There's gotta be a running back in there, right? I mean, I love watching Dalvin Cook. Like, I probably have to put Dalvin Cook on there. He's one of the only players who's, I have a Dalvin Cook shirt in the closet. The only player I think I have right now. And, I love his play style. Like Dalvin Cook, he's not the fastest guy, but he's not slow. But when you're watching him play, he's so much faster than everybody else. Not Tariq type of fast, but he'll force you to take bad angles. I cannot believe how good he is at forcing that. His elusiveness and short area quickness, everything about Dalvin Cook. His game is just so much fun. I just wish that it could be on a winning team. So let's throw Dalvin Cook there into the mix. The Vikings are back in. Patrick Queen becoming a favorite, defensive rookie of the year. I gotta see what he's up to. You know, I watch a lot of Red Zone, so I watch the Vikings, and then I watch Red Zone, and then I watch most primetime games. So I definitely have a lot of blind spots where I haven't seen Joe Burrow play a ton recently because the Bengals don't show up on Red Zone very much. Their defense does. But definitely some defensive talent too. I'm so offensive focused because I play a lot of fantasy football and it's where so much of my attention is that I lose sight of Budda Baker becoming a star defensive player and getting paid, and me not really paying attention to his career to that point. When I have a chance, I want to watch more games back that I missed. I kind of want to watch the Bengals game from over the weekend. Justin Jefferson is fun. He's a lot of fun. He is really, really fun to watch. So back to my top 5 here. I've named 4 players. And I said I wouldn't name a Viking, and then I named a Viking. So now I got to move on. Marlon Humphrey. Oh, I know how good he is. You don't target Marlon Humphrey. So I need one more in the top 5. Can I get somebody in there that I actually would have favorited over Will Fuller? I don't know that I can do it. If I just go through position by position, like at quarterback, sure, there are guys I like to watch, but I named Russ, and I don't think there's a quarterback there I'd throw into there. Even Fitzmagic. At running back, I already named Dalvin. I'm trying to pick one from, not more than one at a position. Receiver, I already named Julio. Tight end, no one stands out enough for me. Not that there's not one good enough, but it's there's not one on that level for me. Offensive lineman, I mean, it's weird to have an offensive lineman as a favorite. If a guard came to the Vikings and saved the franchise, they'd be my favorite guard. Give me like an average guard. Defensive line. Edge rusher, maybe? I mean, there are players I like, but do I have a favorite, like, edge rusher around the league? Maybe it would have been Khalil Mack, but not now in Chicago. I liked Preston Smith, but not now in Green Bay. No way. I love watching Donald and Watt. Yeah, all those guys are fantastic, but are they really my favorites? Because we're talking about a very emotional grading system right now. I'm not talking about the 5 best players. I'm talking about the 5 that make me happy. I enjoy watching them play. I think part of like Aaron Donald is like, I can't enjoy it fully because it's like, oh, what about him against the Vikings? What would that be like? And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about that. I named Matthew already. I already said Tyron Matthew. Antoine Winfield's going to be up there. Jair Alexander, he came to my head before because I loved him coming out of Louisville. And then, welcome to Green Bay. He's a star on day one. That's fantastic. There isn't a kicker or a punter. Demario Davis is really good. Colby Wadman. What about watching Marshawn Lynch? Yeah, I love watching Lynch a lot. And Cordell Patterson and Devin Hester. Well, Hester made a Hall of Fame career out of playing the Vikings. So that's a weird one. So many of his came against the Vikings. It's Will Fuller. It's just Will Fuller. I like Will Fuller. I liked it when he didn't catch the game-winning touchdown against the Vikings. That was about it. Or the tying potential touchdown. It's got to be Will Fuller. He's got to be in my top 5. And you know what? If I had to stretch it to a 6, it might be another receiver. And again, fantasy football bias, but I just love watching Amari Cooper. And Michael Gallup, for that matter. I have a Will Fuller problem. That is true. It has to be Fuller. Last week, I literally Googled, like, Will Fuller shirts. I wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to see if, like, he had his own... A lot of players have their own gear. A lot of times it's with, like, whatever charitable organization they have. And so I wanted to see if, like, Will Fuller had one. So, like, literally, I tried to buy something Will Fuller related last week. I just didn't find anything that was quite to my liking. I went to, like, NFL Shop. They have, like, those, like, beanbag boards. They're like $200. What's the profit margin on the beanbag hole board? Are you kidding me? Oh, wait. These aren't $200. That's $30. That one's $240. Okay, I'm gonna print screen that. Let me get this up here. The beanbag board holes board. I don't know what it's called. Like, a lot of players got some cool gear out there. I wouldn't mind a Will Fuller one. All right, let's get this in here. $240 for a Will Fuller regulation cornhole board set. I just want to know what the profit margins are because we have some wood. what is the top board? Is that just like, what's the quality? What's the degradation of that? Like, how long is that gonna last? If you leave it outside in the rain, will there be wear and weather? I just want to know how you justify $240 for this. I mean, this sounds like you could put this together if you knew how to work a saw. I don't know what the top piece is. But what's the profit margins on that? Granted, it's probably somewhat heavy and the shipping is definitely baked into the price. So let's take $50 off of that and say that it's shipping. It's probably a pain to ship. That's still pretty expensive. It's only $240 with the code, yeah. Is this like the whole Kohl's business model where it's like, hey, half the store is on sale. We just never actually charged that much in the first place. Is your Broncos franchise your favorite? I think so. If I went to Home Depot, I hope I can make this for under $100. Now, I wouldn't be able, you know, I don't have a table saw, so that would cost some money. Any videos coming out today? Yeah, there's a Super Mega Baseball video coming out. Check out Lamar Jackson's merch. He has some great merch. Does he? Does he have his own shop? He does. Era8apparel.com. Lamar Jackson. Some of this is dope. Wow. I gotta show you this stuff here. You're right. Lamar has some good merch. So we're gonna plug the Lamar Jackson merch here. This is a sold out hoodie collection. That's pretty fire. I like that. I like those a lot. There's a larger view of it. Should the Vikes get a new jersey design? No, I like the uniforms. I just wish they'd win more. Thoughts on Wentz in the NFC East? Part of me still thinks that Wentz can turn it around. Like, I've developed kind of a higher opinion of Wentz, but his style, I think, is going to require a bit more talent at receiver because he's very aggressive and sometimes overconfident, I feel. And him settling things down, taking it down a notch, I think it comes very unnatural for him. Don't you want a Cousins jersey? If I did, I'd just wait for 2 years when they're on clearance. Imagine if the Vikings had all black color rush with purple numbers and yellow outline. That would be sweet. I'd like that a lot. Thoughts on coaches, players saying that their coaches are unprepared? Well, that's pretty unacceptable because you have a very veteran coaching staff with Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan. How are you unprepared? When do you think the Vikings will pick this year? I'm going to say right now, I think the Vikings pick 9th. 9th in the draft. That's my prediction, official prediction. Because right now, if you check out the standings, like 1/3 of the league nearly is either at 0 or 1 win. The Vikings being one of those teams. They would have to out-tank so many other teams. As bad as they've been, I question how much they can actually tank there because A, I think Zimmer is a good coach, and B, they do have some very good players. They are more talented than about any other team in that 1-win tier, and they do have a coach that, you know, you can say whatever you want about Zimmer. 15th active in win percentage right now, and before this year it was even higher, but 5 losses like this will drop your percentage a bit. Zimmer's a good coach. And you know, sometimes he pulls out a great game plan against a great opponent. Last year against the Saints, he had a great plan. And then just a couple weekends ago against Seattle, I mean, he gave them a winning game plan. Steelers or Titans next week? I'm feeling Tennessee. I think it's in Pittsburgh. That Tennessee team is what the Vikings wish they were. Tannehill's playing how they wanted Cousins to play. The ground game is dominant, and they actually have one of the top invested lines in the NFL. The Vikings are 32nd in offensive line investment. That's going to be one heck of a game. I really hope that it's not at noon. Actually, it doesn't matter, because I can watch whatever game I want. The Vikings don't play this week. I wish that game was in prime time. Buccaneers Raiders? Doesn't really do it for me. Not really interested in that one. That's a nice, 3 o'clock game. I want to see the highlights. If it gets interesting late, I'll watch it. For some reason, that game doesn't interest me. Maybe I've seen the Bucs too much lately. Where's that game? Oh, yeah. It's 12 o'clock. Okay. It's in Tennessee, and it's at noon. I thought it was at 3 o'clock in Pittsburgh, so I know nothing. I'm not counting the Steelers out. I think it'll be a great game. But Tennessee is just impressing me a lot right now, and I think they can pull it out. One thing I like about Tennessee is I think that obviously they're a team that wants to run the football, but I think when you take away plan A, their plan B is better than a lot of teams' plan Bs. When they're at full strength primarily. I mean, I think Jonnu Smith is pretty important to the passing game. He didn't play much on in their last one. But A.J. Brown's a stud. They hit some big plays to Khalif Raymond against the Vikings. Tannehill's playing really well. So if the game's in his hands or the game's in Henry's hands, you can win either way. And that's what makes the Titans an interesting team. Could you talk about Chicago for a minute? Okay, I'm going to set a stopwatch here. I'm going to talk about the Chicago Bears for a whole minute. All right. I want to give Matt Nagy some credit for benching Mitchell Trubisky despite the team winning. I think we all thought that Nick Foles was going to be the quarterback of that team this year, and maybe it hasn't gone the way we thought it would. I thought Foles would start earlier, Foles would play better. He hasn't been that great, and in some of the games he's been legitimately bad. But the defense for Chicago is outstanding. They got Jalen Johnson. I loved him in the draft. Also, I loved Kyle Fuller ahead of that draft too, so that's a thing. Offensively, I think they're going to be held back because they just don't have enough, I think, outside of Allen Robinson, and Foles isn't really playing well enough. I think once they face some better teams, they're going to have some issues, but their defense should keep them in any game, and I think they'll be probably a 10-win team this year. They still have 2 to go against the Vikings. My minute's up. Hey, Kane, my Sunday was awful. Say 10 reasons why you love the Packers. Aaron Rodgers threw a pick 6, and I got to see it. That's all I got, really. Packers are a pretty good team. I still think A.J. Dillon was the wrong pick. I still think Jordan Love was the wrong pick. They should have gotten a receiver at some point. But, they're fine. If Vikings pick at 9, would you want them to pick O-line or someone like Trey Lance if he's available? I think I don't really have an opinion yet on like Lance or Fields. I haven't really watched them play very much. I've watched plenty of Lawrence because Clemson's just always on national TV. Ohio State gets on there too, but I don't always watch a lot of college football until the night games. It seems every Big Ten game is at noon, and all the big SEC, ACC games are at night, and those are the ones I usually catch. So I don't really know yet, but I would probably be on board going quarterback early. Because either way, it's been identified that Cousins isn't the answer, so you have to look for who is or who could be. So there is no such thing as it being too early to take a quarterback if you're the Vikings. It's just, is there a quarterback worth taking there? It's a little weird seeing the Dolphins benching Fitzpatrick, but I do get it. Like, if you think Tua's ready, if he's been practicing well, and you think that, hey, we don't gotta wait a year, put him in there, and let's pick up where we left off. Like, how do you fault that? The Dolphins are a fun team to watch. They're probably not a great team, but they're getting closer. And if it's time to start the Tua era, even though Fitzpatrick's playing well, then so be it. Imagine Julio Jones to the Ravens. I saw that jersey swap. That would be terrifying. Partially because in fantasy, Lamar Jackson only completes 20 passes a week anyway, and you can't even count on Andrews or Hollywood to get a lot of the production, so what do you do in fantasy? But as far as true football, I mean, that would just be unbelievable. Is there any more non-football series in the works? Right now? No. In the future, probably. I think we could see a return to the show next year. Denzel Ward. I may be biased because I'm a Browns fan. That's from a mod a little bit ago when I was listing off players who were my favorites. Yeah, Denzel Ward's very good. Thoughts on Wentz in the NFC East? I think I answered this one. Crazy trade idea. The reports are true and Falcons decide to tank. Trade Julio Jones to Green Bay for Jordan Love and some picks. Ryan also traded. I can't see him doing it, but do not send Julio to Green Bay. I just listed him as one of my top 5 favorite players. And it would be very fitting if he all of a sudden became a Packer and, oh, you didn't like the Love pick, didn't like the Dillon pick? Well, here we go. We've lost one game and now we got Julio Jones. Hashtag trust the process. Please do not let that happen. We have Lazard. When's he going to be back on the field, though? Like, yeah, Lazard looked solid. I still think with Lazard, I mean, you should still look to address receiver. Division winner predictions. Packers. I still would say the Cowboys. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Eagles figure it out at some point and they can manage an extra half victory. They have the tie, remember. So it could be Dallas. I think that Seattle wins the West. And I think that the way things are looking right now, I think Tampa wins the South. I had doubts about the Saints coming into the year, mainly because of Drew Brees. Actually, one of my big prediction was coming into the year that my long shot, not that I necessarily thought it would happen. I thought they'd be good, but I thought like the odds would be in your favor to pick the Falcons as the division champions in the NFC South. And I thought that because I think the Saints are trending down. I thought asking the Bucs to take a big leap was a tall ask, and the Panthers were going to be trash. I've probably been wrong about all 4 of those in one way or another. I thought that the Falcons could get back on track the way the Rams are. I thought where the Rams are right now would be Atlanta. I was wrong. The other side of the country had the right answer. I'd probably take the Bucs right now just because their defense is really good, and I think the offense is getting better. I think Nola's going to be in the postseason. The NFC is just a mess. Carolina could make it interesting, but will they be able to sustain what they've done? I expected them to lose to Chicago, but they're not as bad as I thought they'd be. In the AFC, Kansas City wins the West, I think. Titans in the South over Indy. Since when is Indiana in the South, by the way? Same geographer that put the Cowboys in the NFC East, I guess. In the AFC North, I picked the Steelers already. And in the East, I think Buffalo. New England already 2-3. I mean, Cam is great. Can you imagine that offense without Cam? You can wipe off those 2 victories, I think. And Cam isn't, he didn't play great on Sunday from what I saw. But that team needs a receiver. Maybe more than Green Bay does. How far do you live from a pro football stadium now? I think it's still a few hours. Do the Jets go 0-16? Sorry, my throat's a little dry. Let me look at the Jets' schedule because they certainly have a chance. But one of the things you have to remember is eventually these bad teams play each other, and somebody usually wins. The Jets play the Bills. The Bills, who have been bad the last 2 weeks, they're going to come back hungry. The Jets are not going to beat the Bills. The Jets will not beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Jets host the Patriots. I don't think they'll win that game either. The Jets then play the Chargers. That is, I think, their first winnable game that's next. The Chargers are probably better, but come on. Have you watched the Chargers in the last year? 2 years? Well, I've watched them for 20, and I know that they're capable of losing to anybody. The Chargers are a much better team, but we're talking about what could happen. Could Justin Herbert throw a pick six on the first drive and the Jets play from ahead and get on a roll? I can see that happening. Jets versus Dolphins. Division game where the gap isn't as far as the Patriots and Bills. The Jets are also at home for that game. That one could possibly be winnable. If Tua is like Alabama Tua, forget about it. Jets and the Raiders. No. I would have the Raiders winning by a lot in that game. That's my gut instinct. I don't know what the Jets are going to do, to slow down. If they can run the ball with Jacobs at that point and they have Henry Ruggs opening things up, on day one, you could tell the Raiders had a plan for Ruggs. He's being used in some really good ways that's helping others get opportunity. Jets in Seattle, no. Jets and Rams. The Rams, late in the season, could be upset by the Jets. That could be the Jets' Christmas gift to everybody on December 20th. Jets and Browns. I'd say that game is also potentially winnable. And then they finish against the Patriots. I see 4 potential games they could win. Potentially. And this is still like less than 10% chance of happening. But those are the games that I would be worried about. Trade for Brandon Warren. Broncos need him badly. Warren's not even playing well this year in the franchise. I mentioned the KC game. I had like a 1-word reply for that one. Nope. Le'Veon Bell. I want to know, what do you think Le'Veon Bell rushes for against the Jets? Do we finally see him get over 100 yards again? Fun fact of the day, Nelson Agholor is the only receiver that has a perfect passer rating when being thrown to this season. Every time he's thrown at, he's wide open. Aguilar's looked pretty good. Eagles fans are wondering, wait a minute, is this the same guy that dropped all these passes? Maybe if you were nicer to him, he would have caught them all. $80 yards and a touchdown. That's probably a very level-headed way to look at it. Because realistically, why would you give Bell 20 touches? Because that means you're giving Clyde Edwards-Helaire like 6. So that's not going to happen. Bell may get majority, but I think it's more 50-50 split than anything really favoring him a lot. So, from a fantasy perspective, I'm kind of worried about the whole situation just because I don't know if Bell's going to get the volume. And now it looks like Clyde is only going to lose volume from here. And who's getting the ball at the goal line? Is it Bell or Clyde? I think it would be Bell. Not sure we'll see a game like last night for an individual running back on the Chiefs again this season. Bell is going to get most of his work catching the ball. Clyde will be used on the ground. That's what I'm kind of thinking, Rec. I think Bell as a receiver is probably, a safe bet. Get him back to catching the football and making plays there. Like, how long has it been since Bell was putting out like those videos of him on social media running routes in practice? Because if he can still, I don't know if he can still do some of that. Like, I haven't watched a lot of him with the Jets, really. It's just usually 2 yards here, 3 yards there. Because his receiving skills were elite at the top of his game, but it's been a couple of years removed. But yeah, Clyde still is going to get work. I mean, he's not all of a sudden going to become like a 3-carry guy that's only in because of fatigue and mop-up situations. That's not going to happen. I still think you can bank on Clyde getting 10 touches a game. I just wonder if it's more than that. Because when it comes to Bell and Clyde, don't you think they're both going to get double-digit touches a game now? Like 12-ish each, maybe. Pee-wee, thank you for the super chat. I have a 32-team created league in Madden 12, all of them cupcake. It's fun because no great free agents. Crappy play, but even players develop fairly in drafting. Certainly interesting because they aren't much better. That's hilarious. That would introduce a lot of unique strategy as to how you handle a team like that. That sounds like fun. Yeah, like Clyde's touchdown luck was really bad entering this past week. I was waiting on the touchdowns to come in. I don't know how many touchdowns he's going to score now this year. Probably not too many. What's the music playing right now? This is in the YouTube audio library. It's been my favorite song for the last month. It's called Subway Dreams. I wonder if they're talking about like the Subway itself or like the sandwich. Remember when the chat fooled you into thinking there was an 8.2 combine grade quarterback? Yeah, that's a mistake you only make one time. Never believe the chat. The problem is too many people get on board. Usually when it's like in chat. This is how it is for most streamers. They ask a question, and then because there's thousands in some chats, hundreds in others, you're going to get a variety of responses, so you just pick out what the most common response is. You go with the consensus. But there are times when the chat says, hey, let's play a game. That'll be fun. It's not very nice, guys. I can't believe this average, by the way. Can we just talk about how Donovan Jennings tore up the preseason and now, I don't know. It's just not making sense to me. He hasn't had a play of over 25 yards in 3 years, or 2 years. That's wild. That's a long time. No, I haven't gone to any high school football games in Texas yet. I know high school football is very different in Texas compared to the rest of the world or country. But I haven't gone to one. I haven't gone to many high school football games in the last 10 years. One of the big schools in the Twin Cities is Cretin-Durham Hall. That's where like Joe Mauer went to school. I think did Larry? No. I know Joe Mauer's from St. Paul. I forget if he went to Cretin-Durham Hall. I know a lot of big name guys out of the cities have. So I went to see one of their games once. Now I gotta know if Joe Mauer went there. I feel like it wasn't. Oh, it was. It was. Okay. Never mind. Any thoughts on a new NCAA 14 Dynasty? Yeah, I've thought about that a bit, but I don't think I'll be starting anything anytime soon. I want to shrink the number of series I'm working on for a bit, and then take my time thinking about the next series I start on the main channel. What NFL players have I met? I have never met any NFL players. Not even by accident. Not that I know of. But if I did meet an NFL player, you know what? I'd want it to be Will Fuller. I served Justin Tuck and Uncrustable? Really? You know, Uncrustables are low-key kind of fire, but I haven't had one since high school. Not that I remember, anyway. Trade DJ and your left tackle for an upgrade at left tackle, or use him, Baxter, and what else for Prescott Pemberton III. Baxter and Jennings are not really doing anything this year. Yeah, I've got to think about if I want to make any trades, because it's the deadline right now. Or I think I get one more game and then it's the deadline. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I've met Calais Campbell in the airport boarding to Florida. That's another one of my favorite players, actually. I have liked Calais Campbell for a long time. remember watching like videos of him thinking about where he wanted to go before he signed in Jacksonville. There were some cool videos on, I think the Cardinals. I don't know who posted the videos, but showed him off the field. Seems like a cool guy. I wish someone would talk about me the way Kane talks about Will Fuller. How can you be somebody else's Will Fuller? That should be like the goal in life. Kurt Coleman's dad was my high school principal. Okay, that's a little bit of a stretch. That one's a little more unique. Do I think Dwayne Haskins is a bust? I mean, it's probably trending in that direction. I mean, certainly it hasn't been worth a first-round pick to this point. I guess I expected him to get more time to play this year, but especially for a coaching staff and a regime that didn't draft him, I mean, they've come to their determination, and they want to go in a different direction, it looks like, and this is pretty common stuff. Oh, you met Babs after the Vikings cut him? Babatunde Aigbusi? What is he up to? He is a professional wrestler and former football player currently signed to the WWE. I didn't know that. He's 6'9", 350. Wow, it's been 5 years since he had that offseason with the Vikings. That's 5 years already? Seriously? He was a tryout, basically, camp offensive tackle. I forget his whole story. He played in the Polish American Football League, and the Vikings signed him just for an off season. Jim Kelly made fun of my hair. I understood why. Yeah, Jim Kelly's really a cool guy too. Alright everybody, I think that's going to do it for me today. I want to get to recording some of this Broncos franchise, and I got a couple things I got to take care of today. So I really enjoyed the stream today. Thank you for hanging out with me today, allowing me to vent about the 2020 Vikings. It's been a tough season. I expect it to remain tough. Hopefully the rest of the year we can at least see some players get better. Hopefully the secondary grows. Hopefully Justin Jefferson has a bunch more big touchdowns. And hopefully, like, there are good things to take away from the season. But that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thank you all for your time, your support, all the super chats today, all the new members. It's a good time, and maybe we'll do it again soon sometime. Member stream this weekend, though, on Saturday. I will have a community post for that for the members here pretty soon. So have a good one, everybody. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? That's what it says. I'll believe it.